And face shin. And face here. All right, so if you wish, you can get benches, and us join here, us join. If you wish, you can get benches or sit comfortably. All right, so the format, have you been to this class before? Yeah, right. So if you wish, you can get benches, otherwise just sit comfortably. So no, we can sit. We can sit, guys. But believe me, you're going to want to sit, because I'm going to talk forever. So the format of this class is reversed for the next 4 weeks. Normally we do meditation techniques at the beginning. We're going to do them at the end of class for the next 4 weeks. Basically, because what we're going to use our meditation techniques very simply is to think about some of the topics I'm going to bring up. This is a 4-week cycle. One of the reasons I really wanted to record the audio is I know life is hard and you may not be able to hear me for all 4 weeks. But I'm going to give you the opportunity to at least hear all the pieces that maybe you missed. In this week, what we're talking about is top level stuff. So the reason I do this at the beginning of the year is obvious. You have a blank slate, right? You have a new year. And if any year we ever needed a new year, this is the one. All right? So this is an opportunity for this year to not be like last year. Now, to be honest with you, it doesn't matter what the previous year was, because I would say that no matter what the year was, right? I have to say that over my entire life, I have done many things that are regretful. Many things that are regretful. And I don't really regret the things that I've done. Most of them I learned from most. All right? And the reality is that that's true for all of us. All right? It's the lessons we take from that and the opportunity for tomorrow to not be today. Right? That is such an amazing treasure. I can't even underline that enough. Right? It's like tomorrow you can be a whole different person. Kids class we talk, sometimes when there's a new school year, right? Kids go from elementary to middle school, go to middle school to high school. And we have some kids and they ask, I have trouble with these people, or these people make fun of me, or these people I don't like them, or they don't like me, whatever. And so what I say to them sometimes, if you're going from middle school to high school or whatever, this is a chance to be a different person, right? If you're the clown in class, you can be the athlete now, all right? If you're the dumb athlete guy, you can be the scientist now if you want. You're going to a place where they don't know you. You get to define you. And here's the cool thing as adults. This is the one advantage you have from being a kid. You can define yourself every day. You can redefine yourself every day. Right? Now don't go home and say, Sensei said we should sell everything and I'm moving to Burma. Right? I'm not saying that. All right? But redefining yourself can be as simple as saying, you know what? I'm just going to eat a little bit better for the next 4 to 5 days, and on weekends maybe I'll be a little crazy. All right? Or it can be, you know what? I'm just going to be a calmer person. Right? And you can be the biggest nutcase on earth right now, but tomorrow it's in your control to change it. Right? All right. So, having said all that, we're going to talk about purpose and goals. And there's 2 Karate Do concepts that kind of speak to this. The first one is a huge one, and it's Ikigai. It's so big that it's been here all along. It's actually this. And I'm going to pull this out here if I can. Yeah. These, by the way, are special shikishi boards. I actually make these. This is from 2014. They're made by wrapping mulberry paper around a piece of wood. That's why this piece of wood is here. It's waiting to get its little wrapping. This is Ikigai. I'll pass it around if you guys want. Ikigai means the purpose or the reason for existing. Right? The reason that you exist. This is a powerful and sometimes dangerous idea. There is a famous author, actually he's well known for science fiction work, Isaac Asimov. You probably heard of him. He was actually a brilliant guy. He had a PhD in biochemistry. He taught biochemistry. In fact, he wrote a textbook that was used at Columbia. All right. But he also wrote fiction books. He wrote history. He wrote science fiction. He wrote mysteries. All right. Very talented guy. He wrote a series of mysteries that had, I won't go into too much detail, but there was a group of these guys in the club, and they would have a guest come. And the first question they asked the guest, it was like a dinner club, right? The first question they asked the guest was, how do you justify your existence? That was the first question. Now, I'm not going to ask you that question, but you should think about it, all right? We're not sharing this. This is not group therapy, okay? And I think that's important because this is a conversation you have with yourself.
That's amazing.
Right?
That's amazing.
So with yourself, some by yourself, etc. But justifying and explaining and having a reason for existence, if nothing else, is the secret to happiness. And here's the bonus. I'll talk about this in a second. If nothing else is the secret to happiness and the secret to longevity, long life, there's nothing else that compares. Nothing. Let me talk about that for a second. A bunch of years ago, a group of statisticians and scientists, they looked at different clusters around the world, the population clusters, right, cohorts, right? And they looked at people who were especially long-lived. Right? Now, they found them in a lot of different places. By the way, you know what one of those clusters is? It's Okinawa. Right? It's one of the clusters, but there are many. There are many. In the Mediterranean, Georgia, the Caucasus, right? Georgia, yes. In the Mediterranean, Sardinia, I believe, is another one. But there are a number. In the United States, there's a couple as well. Okay. Now, some of these have different things in common, but not all of them do. Now, good diet is important. All right. Being able to walk to places is really important. All right. It's a great thing, by the way, that you live in a big city where you can walk to a lot of stuff. Okay. But you know what all of these had in common? They all had a social construct where no matter how old you were, you had a place in society, right? Those of you who come from more Mediterranean or, I'm Italian or whatever, like older people, they're part of and like in Italy, one of the reasons, by the way, why the coronavirus is so deadly in Italy is you had intergenerational families, right? You had nonna, and then you had the grandma, right? Grandma, grandpa. You had the middle-aged guys with the kids, with the cousins, it's like a clan all under one roof. Now you imagine Dad goes to work at the Fiat factory in Milan, and he comes home. He's a healthy guy. He has nothing to worry about. The little kids, they got nothing to worry about. But no one is 98 years old. All right? So that's why Italy has struggled so much with this. Right? Other Mediterranean cultures which have this intergenerational thing, they struggle with this because their seniors are at risk. Right? However, in all of these cultures with long life, if you're 80 years old, 90 years old, you don't go to a nursing home, right? You don't retire to Florida and play golf until you die after the 6th hole, right? You take care of the kids, the grandkids, right? I used to live in San Francisco, right, in an area called the Sunset District. It's right in the ocean. I used to run on the Pacific. It's gorgeous, right? But a very Asian neighborhood, right? And I'd see these old Chinese ladies who are like in their 90s. They're still walking around. Now, some of them would maybe take care of kids after school or whatever, but some of them would go to, nonprofits, to food banks, whatever, and they would get like a little bag of food or whatever. And one day I was talking to a friend of mine who happens to be Chinese, and he has a grandma and all the rest. I said, these homes around here, they're like $3 million houses, right? They are. They're beautiful houses. Why is she going to the food bank to get like a bag of peanuts? And he said, it's because that's her contribution to the family. I mean, seriously, these are $1 million homes, okay? She wanted for nothing, all right? If she wanted a gold-plated Mercedes, her son or grandson would have bought it for her with a driver, okay? But she's going to food banks to get cans of food. You know, now, yeah, okay, we should have it for poor people. I get it. I'm not condoning it. Don't go doing it. But this is how this little lady was 90-something years old. This is how she contributed to the family. She brought food home. Okay? She had a purpose. So having a purpose in life gives you a reason to keep going. If you look at mortality stats, all right, you can go look this up if you want. The number of deaths after Christmas are significantly higher than on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. The number of deaths on anyone's birthday are much lower than on any other day in the year. You are statistically least likely to die on your birthday. All right? Happy birthday, all you guys. You know why? Because you have a reason to make it there. You have one more reason to wait. Right? I have a feeling if you could correlate this, you're also least likely to die on the birthdays of your kids or your grandkids. I bet. I'll make any statistician bet that. Okay? Because we need goals. We need a reason. We need to be able to what? Mr. Asimov, Dr. Asimov, to justify our existence. Really. And it drives us. It drives us to that. That's what Ikigai is about. Reason for existence. So why am I talking about all this? Well, reason for existence has to be real to you. I cannot judge or define any of your reasons for existence, all right? It's impossible, and it actually would be wrong, because I most likely will be wrong about anything that I would say to you, because I'm not you. I don't have your value system, your history, your past life experiences, et cetera, right? So this is a question you must answer for yourself. And here's the thing, it has to be something you feel emotional for. See, wanting to make $20 million, if you grew up in the middle of a really poor place in a poor country and you have a family and you want your family to want for nothing, that could be enough emotional reason. It could be. But having that big pile of money, generally speaking, is not enough emotional reason. I mean, are you really that attached to your BMW M3? Are you? Really? I mean, it's a cool car. I have one. It's a cool car. It's fun to drive, but come on. Big deal. It's a freaking car, right? That's all it is. Defining reason for existence is what gets your butt out of bed in the morning, what keeps you up late at night, that makes you keep going when you're tired, or you're sick, or you're hungry, or distracted, or you're depressed, or any of those other things. You know why? Because just like we say in endurance class, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It just so doesn't matter. Because you're on a mission. Your mission, your personal mission is Ikigai, is your reason for existence. By the way, it doesn't have to be one thing. It can be several. But it shouldn't be 20 either, okay? Right? There's such a thing as diffusion, right? There's an expression, you can only chase one rabbit at a time, okay? I think that was a meditation lecture a couple of months ago, was it? I think in this class. You have to have focus of attention, focus of emotion, right? I always laugh at people saying, yeah, I have like 200 close friends, and they're all on Facebook. They can't even name them. They're close friends. Yeah, sure they are, right? Right? Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, I think in this class, although you may not have heard it, and I'll make this a very short anecdote. They've done psychological studies. Human beings in general, 7. That's the number of close personal relationships you You have. Okay, more than 7, you're kidding yourself, you really are. All right, 7. And by the way, that includes mom, dad, sister, brother, partner, kid, okay? 7. 7. So don't think you have 400 close friends, you don't. Okay? So, just like that, diffusion makes you not as good of a friend to those 7 people, right? You can't pursue 20 close personal friends. You don't have time. You don't have time, right? So, in terms of that ikigai, that reason for existence, you can have 1, 2, 3. There's no magic number. I can't define that for you. You define it for yourself. But you gotta be honest with yourself. And you have to really seek to know, understand the reality, the truth in your head. Don't kid yourself. Don't talk yourself into having 5 big life goals that you probably can't do 5. Okay. Now we're gonna talk about goals in a second, right? But I'm talking about reasons for existing. These are the things you put a stake in the ground for. These are the things you might die for, right? I mean, for those of you who have kids, you know, maybe some of you not yet, or maybe you will later, or whatever, I mean, you die for those kids. I mean, you mess with someone's kids, it's nuclear war time, right? We go to war, right? I mean, for some people, they have a close relationship with their spouse, maybe, or a brother, sister, or mom, or dad, or whatever. You interfere with that, we go to war. It's Armageddon, maybe, right? For people who have a strong, maybe political cause, maybe they have a strong, like, charitable cause, maybe they believe in a certain religion or a certain set of beliefs, and it's a very, very important part of their reason for existing, right? Right? That's the stuff that is ikigai, right? You want to take care of your little sister, right? You want to find a cure for leprosy. You want to make enough money that you can give it all away and make an impact on the world. That was about Andrew Carnegie, by the way, right? I want to make so much money so I can give it all away. It's kind of interesting. Somebody asked him, what happens if somebody comes and takes away all your money in your factory? Andrew Carnegie was founder of U.S. Steel, technically the richest person ever in American history, probably in world history, all right? If you correlate for inflation, right? Carnegie Hall, by the way, that Carnegie, okay? That Rockefeller. More than Rockefeller, yes. More than Rockefeller, yes. Almost every public library, main library in the United States, was funded by Andrew Carnegie. Almost everyone, including the New York one. All right, although the building is not, that's J.P. Morgan. This is his old house, by the way. The Lions used to live there. But his goal, so they said to him, what do we take away all those factors of money and all that? He says, doesn't matter. A couple years, I get them all back. And make it all back. Doesn't matter. Right? So why are you working so hard? So I can, the first half of my life, make so much money that I can spend the second half of my life giving it all away. Right? And it wasn't just, here's $100 for you, honey. He wasn't Oprah, free car for everybody, right? I'm nothing against Oprah, I'm just saying. But it was focused. He had certain things he believed in, cultural institutions, libraries, reading, giving people a chance to get knowledge, right? The libraries were the internet of the late 19th century, okay? He wanted to give that to people, to bring it to people. Because he knew you plant 1,000 seeds like that, look what you would get. And he was right, actually, right? That was his reason for existing. So see, sometimes making a couple $1 billion can be a reason to exist, but Carnegie did not make $1 billion so he could count the money. He made $1 billion so he could give it all away. Right? That's a reason to exist. He worked late at the office every night because of that. Okay? Ikigai gives you a chance to be your own superhero. What's a superhero? A superhero is someone who goes above and beyond the normal to achieve. That's a superhero. You can be that. Right? You just got to define what that is for you. Right? So that's Ikigai, reason for existing. But this set of meditation class is also very practical. I'm not just going to give you concepts. So, mokteki is another phrase you may have heard in classes. It'll be on your syllabus at a certain point. Mokteki is to have a goal, like a target goal. Makteki it can be as simple as, I want to get a promotion in my job this year. You know, I want to go to school and learn these 4 things. I want to get better at kata. I want to get more fit. I want to know more about good foods to eat. I want to visit a place where they speak a language that I don't know a single word of. Those could all be makteki, they could all be goals. See, those are very specific, we might call implementation level goals, okay? Ikigai is the mission. That's the mission, right? Makteki are the individual goals that filter up to that, okay? But let's talk in more practice. How do you find all these goals? I mean, you have a blank slate in front of you, a whole year, a couple days less than 365 days, okay? It's a lot of days. How are you going to organize all this? You won't unless you have at least an idea of a map, okay? How do you get the map? Okay, I got to give you homework. I'm sorry. Here's the homework. To do this, and by the way, you're not bringing this back to me, so whether you do this or don't, I don't know. So relax, guys. Don't get all anxious. But you should do this, really. You owe it to yourself to do this. You're going to find some way that you like to quickly write stuff down. For some people, it's a piece of paper and a pen, a notebook, loosely, whatever it is. For some people, it's their phone, a computer, like a laptop, they type fast, whatever it is. You need a way to record your ideas really fast, right, without a lot of barriers between that. So whatever that is, figure it out. That's what you're going to do. You also need to be alone in some place that's reasonably quiet for maybe a couple hours, 2 hours, 3 hours. Guys, you're worth spending 2 or 3 hours. Okay, you are. I promise you this. Anybody says, what are you doing for the next couple of hours, and then they complain about this, tell them to come see me. I'll talk to you. Okay? All right? You are worth it. Find the time. 2 or 3 hours. That's all it is. Try to over budget, not under budget. Right? You should feel like I got so much time. Time's not an issue for this. You don't need more than 2 or 3 though, trust me. All right. You're gonna find this quiet place. You're gonna sit down by yourself. You have a way to record a list, 2 or 3 hours. Okay. Number 1. You're going to write until you can't think of another single thing. This is what you're going to write. You're going to write every crazy goal you could possibly have. You want to be an astronaut? Write it down. Right? Want to be a black belt? Write it down. You want to open up your own art school? Write it down. You want to own a multi-billion-dollar piece of real estate? Write it down. I don't care how crazy it is. You want to be president of the United States? Write it down. I don't know why you want it, but write it down. All right. You want to explore. You want to be in outer space, not an astronaut, but you want to go on one of those space tours and things. Write it down. You want to start a company? Write it down. You want to buy a new Ferrari? Write it down. You want to take a year off and write a book? Write it down. I don't care how crazy it is. I also don't care how small it is. I want to find a new bookstore that I can just browse in New York City. Write it down. By the way, go to the Strand and go to Argosy. Those are the 2 best ones. But write it down. Write it down. Right? I want to call an old friend from college that I haven't talked to in a long time and just, what are you doing? Whatever happened to you? I'm just curious. This is what happened to me. You know what happened to me? I do karate do and I listen to this freaking lecture on Wednesday night. It just went on and on. Okay? Write it down. Little and big. No prioritization. Stream of consciousness. It's a fire hose. It's a fire hose. Whoosh. Astronaut is right next to, I want a new pair of jeans. Okay? Like what? I don't care what they are. You're wearing this big, little, big, little, big, gigantic. Write them all down. Doesn't matter. The order does not matter at all. You're going to write until you cannot think of one more thing. Like, you know what? I just don't know. If I did all these things here, I'd be happy to die right now. Because I can't think of one single thing. Right? I want to have kids. I want to adopt a monkey. I want to have a zoo. I want my own elephant. Okay? I don't care. Write it down. All the things you wanted to be when you were little, you're a little girl, little boy, and you still want them. Remember, you don't have to justify it to me. You don't have to justify it to anybody else. Write it down. You want to own the Batmobile from the 1966 series with Adam West? You can buy it. Write it down. It's expensive. Okay? Write it down. You want to meet George Lucas? I used to live 5 blocks from George Lucas. Write it down. I never met him. But write it down. Don't get excited. Okay? So whatever it is, write it down. So now, and this is going to take you a while because you're all smart, creative people. So I know this is going to take you a while. This could take you a couple hours. That's why I said 2 to 3 hours. So now you have this mass of effectively unedited, unordered goals. Big ones, little ones, gigantic ones, crazy ones that a little part of you would be embarrassed to say to anybody else. But here's the cool thing, you don't have to, okay? So don't worry about being embarrassed. You'll share this with nobody. Unless you want to, maybe your spouse or whatever, doesn't matter. But in general, assume you share with nobody. It's just for you. That's why you're alone, by the way. So now you're done. And you have, I don't know, you're gonna have hundreds of things, maybe. Okay, I don't know. Okay. So now go back to the list. I'm gonna ask you to pick next to the ones that you have, you're gonna put a number. Okay? Here's your choices. You can put the number 1, you can put the number 2, you can put the number 5, or you can put 10. That's the only choices. You don't get to pick 3.5, sorry. 1, 2, 5, 10. What the numbers mean is, if you were to drop everything, except maybe coming to the dojo, if you were to drop everything in that goal, could you do it in 1 year? Right? Could you do it in 1 year? I mean, calling a friend from college? Yeah, of course you can. 1, okay? Buying the Ferrari? I don't know, depends on your bank balance. Also depends on what you earn, what you can save. You know, you can buy them used, by the way. It's my guy. Or enjoy one, yeah, absolutely. Maybe just driving one. Maybe you don't even want to drive, you just want to ride in it, okay? All right, whatever it is. By the way, they are fun. I just want to point out. But whatever it is, 1 year. 2, you could do it in 2 years. 5, you could do it in 5 years. And everything else, 10. I don't really care about the 10 ones, to be honest with you. I want you to identify them though, okay? I'm not saying you can't accomplish them. I'm saying don't spend time like, oh, that's a 7-year one. I don't care. After 5, ask the Soviet Union how well those 5-year plans work out, okay? All right? So, forget about 5, okay? So, 1, you could do it in 1 year. 2, you could do this in 2 years, okay? 5, this is a hard one. It's going to be a lot of effort. This is a long-term thing. 5 years. More than that, I'll go 10. All right, throw it out. I don't want you to throw them away, but I just don't want you to spend time on them. Not now, okay? So now, put them together. All the 1s are in one group, all the 2s are together, the 5s are together, the 10s are together. You see what we're doing? We're making a map. We're making a map. We're making a map of the things that are just across the Hudson River, right? You can get your Blue Metro card, or now you can get out to pay, you swipe, you get to Penn Station, you get on path, you cross the Hudson River, now, God help us, you're in New Jersey, okay? So now you can go different places in New Jersey. This is the stuff that's about a year away. It's doable. You can do this, okay? But you want to go a little more west, so now you want to go to Pennsylvania, Ohio, all right? That's like 2 years. Now the map is getting a little bigger, all right? 5 years, you're going past the Mississippi. 10 years, it's somewhere near the Pacific Ocean. I don't know about that, but okay? You're building a map. Building a map of your life. It's a life map. It's a map of you. It's a little scary, actually, right? To see your life in front of you like that? Wow. Okay? And that's okay. Don't be scared by it. Think of the possibility, the opportunity, right? You can see these things. You can see them. That means you can get there. Whew. You can get there. All right? Now, you may decide not to go to these places. You may decide not to accomplish these things, but that doesn't matter. But you can see where they are. You can see, in a way, at least in very broad strokes, how to get there. You can see they're achievable. See, maybe you want to be an astronaut. Oh, maybe you can't get into the NASA training program. Okay? Although maybe you can. Maybe someday you can. Don't say you can't, but maybe you can. But maybe you can't. But there's other ways to get to outer space. They're expensive. But they're getting cheaper. Don't laugh yet. Don't laugh yet. You can do it. It's crazy. But in about 3 or 4 years, instead of spending $5 or $10 or $20 million, you can maybe do it for $250,000. In 7 or 8 years, maybe for under 100. I know that's a lot of money, but that's within everyone's reach here. You could do that. You could be in outer space within a decade. Personally, you floating in zero gravity. It could be done. I just happen to know. Space tourism, it's a thing, guys. Look it up. Read about it if you want. Okay? So don't dismiss being an astronaut. You may have to recast it. You may have to look at the goal differently, but it's doable. Okay? So think creatively, and also be honest with yourself. What are the things that you really want to do? How do they work? How do they fit into that 1, 2, 5, 10-year horizon? So now you've got all the 1s, the 2s, the 5s, and the 10s. Don't worry so much about the 2, 5s, and 10s. Now you've got your 1s. Okay, now you got your 1s. Okay, now here's the hard work. And I'm gonna meet this at a certain spot. We're gonna pick up from this next week. But so you take your 1s, and you're gonna order them in priority order. You knew that was coming. What are the not the easiest things, but what are the things that mean the most to you on the list of 1s? Right? Maybe it's starting your own company. Maybe it's learning a new language. Maybe it's getting a raise. Maybe it's becoming a blue belt or a yellow belt. Maybe, maybe it is, I don't know, maybe it's buying that Ferrari. I don't know. Maybe that's on your 1 list. The most important thing goes first. The next, the next, the next, the next. So you're ranking them now. You're ranking them. So not only do you now have a global map, now you have a street map. Now you have a street map of your neighborhood. That's what you just built by ranking the 1s. Now later, by the way, this will probably finish your 3 hours at this point, and you can kind of stop that exercise at that point. Later, you can rank 2s, 5s, and 10s if you want. That's not as important. The reason those exist is to give you a long-term roadmap, because they may cause you to make different choices. I'll give you an easy one. Say, for instance, you decide, you know what? I'd love to live in a place where everything is, like a temperate climate. Like, it's not really cold, not really hot, okay? But honestly, I don't want to live there forever. Okay, I just want to experience that for a couple of years. I just like to see what that was like and enjoy it, etc. So you decide to move to San Francisco, but you know you're going to eventually move back to New York or wherever, right? Well, knowing that that's going to happen 2 years from now or 3 years from now, that gives you a horizon and a long-term view. So you know what? I'm not going to buy a house here. I'm going to rent a house instead. All right? Because you have a long-term plan. right? It's kind of interesting. Sometimes people will say, wow, that guy's so lucky. Look what happened to that guy. You know, he moved over there, and instead of buying stuff because he was going to move back, you know, he rented stuff, and now he moved back, and he could just easily pack his stuff up and go. He wasn't lucky. He was just planning. Okay? He was planning, guys. All right? You know, it's a kind of a takeoff on what Arthur C. Clarke said about technology. He said, you know, to a primitive society, technology looks like magic, right? You know, that's true of people who don't plan, right? When they see people who are like everything's falling into place, oh, they're so lucky. They're not lucky. They just planned it, guys. All right? It just looks like magic to you. You can have the same magic. You can have the same magic. It costs you a pen and paper. I'll give you the pen and paper you want. Okay, I'll give you pretty pencils. That makes you happy, and as much paper as you want. And go be by yourself and figure it out. Okay? You have the chance and the opportunity and the tools and the knowledge, and now you know how to do it. So do it. It's worth it. You don't work for 2 or 3 hours. Do it. Okay? And don't worry, I'm not going to ask you if you did it next time. I'm not going to see you say, hey, how's that plan going? Don't worry, I don't do that. Okay? But you owe it to yourself. Do it. You want to ask a question? Go for it.
Well, I really learned something crazy actually. Because remember you started in the beginning with the reason for existence?
Yeah.
And then prioritizing wants.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the reason for existence what gives direction how to prioritize.
What a great statement.
And that's how it all ties in together.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I can now end the class because that's what I was going to say. So, very good. Really excellent. So that's exactly right. So this, to bring it full circle, why was I talking about Ikigai so much? Because it gives life, it breathes into this whole exercise. It makes you really think about the things you're doing. And you know why that's important? Because we all live our life every day, and we all work hard, and we're busy people, and we have all these things that basically are coming into our consciousness. We're going to be talking about that in a couple of weeks too in this particular series. And it's hard for us to get perspective, to pull ourselves out of the trench, and to look over the top and see, hey, they're not shooting at us anymore. Right? You know? So, but what Ikigai does is it lifts us to see the global view, so that when we make any of those lifts, but especially those ones, very good.
That excitement.
Right? Yeah, sure, right. It breathes life, right? It's like blowing up a balloon. It breathes life into those ones. So that, you know, changing jobs so you have more time to be with your son, right? Because part of your existence, the reason for existing is to be the best dad on earth. All of a sudden, that item on your goal list went to the top, right? Let Ikigai give life to those, right? So that's why you want to do both of these things. You want to think about those reasons for existing, which, by the way, can evolve. They can evolve with you as life changes, as you change, right? I'll throw in one last famous, I've seen you quoting everybody tonight, I'm going to throw one more. John Maynard Keynes, famous economist, Keynesian economics, right? I'm not endorsing it, I'm just mentioning it. But he was asked, it was during the New Deal and the Great Depression, and before that he advocated a certain monetary theory, and then he advocated a completely different one. And they asked him, he said, oh, look at these statements they pull out from the newspaper. Look, John Maynard Keynes said this, but now you're saying the opposite. And he said, well, sir, the circumstances have changed, and therefore my opinion has changed. Would you have me do otherwise? Right? It's true, right? You know, you're allowed as a living, breathing adult man or woman, you're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to. In fact, you're kind of required to, actually. Because when the world changes, the people who don't change with it usually get run over. Okay? So, it's okay for Ikigai to evolve with you, okay? And you to evolve with it, okay? There's a certain synchronicity there is. But figure out Ikigai and then do this exercise, right? It will just position you so incredibly, amazingly, powerfully well for this year you got from.
Did you do yours one? Yeah.
I have.
For this
Actually, I read. So here's the question. Someone asked, do you do this every year? So I don't do it from scratch every year because I have one. To be honest, well, this is a long story, but I've had one since actually I was a late teenager because I was a weird teenager. It's a very long story. You don't want to hear it. But I've been doing this for too long. Now that I think about it. But I don't start from a blank slate every time. I look at the stuff that I have. We're going to talk in actually next week. We're going to start talking about more like what can you do with this? Like what's the next step? Like how do you, stuff. And by the way, I'm giving you big ideas. I'm not endorsing products. I'm not even necessarily endorsing methodologies here. Okay, it's for you to find. I'll suggest tools and all that, but there are many tools out there. The tools are not important, to be honest with you. Really, they're not. Right? You can do this with a pencil paper, you can do it with software you download from wherever, okay? It doesn't matter, there's a lot of tools out there. What's important is that you do it,
Have you changed yours during the years?
Oh yes.
Too much for just at the beginning or in the middle or?
A lot. You know what's funny? All right, so I mean, I want to give enough time for you to at least do a little meditation, but and that's a great question, Robert. I have to say that there are a couple things, and it's probably because I'm mentally an 8-year-old, that have stayed the same. There's a couple things that have stayed the same. Most things have evolved more as I just experienced more of life and figured out what was possible. I was not that bright a kid, all right, trust me. So like I didn't understand what all the possibilities necessarily were. But as I was exposed to more, then I could see more opportunities, possibilities, things like, oh, that would be cool to do. Or no, I don't think so. I'm not going to do that, or I'm not going to do that again. That kind of stuff, right? But there are a few things that have stayed with me, and I think they're kind of cool, and I like them. One of them, by the way, is martial arts. I mean, not to, whatever, not to share, but well, I'll share that one thing for you because it's kind of obvious. I've been in martial arts since I was in high school. And that was always part of my identity, part of things that I liked, that made me feel certain ways, and I liked feeling those ways, right? So that's been a consistency, although how it's impacted my life and what my goals in relation to that were, those have changed over time. Yeah, those have. I mean, that's part of life, it's for them to evolve, yeah. It is kind of cool sometimes to look at stuff. I'm somewhat hyper-organized. And while I certainly don't have things from when I was like, 20 or 21 or whatever, I mean, I could tell you the Christmas presents I bought over the last 12 years and who I gave them. I know that's probably oversharing, but the reality is that, I like that level of planning and detail. I like it.
Because you have that house with the doors when everything is
Memory palace. I'm not sure, but we're actually, that's another great comment, but I'm going to reserve that for probably next time, because I'm going to speak to that. There's a question about what you keep in the memory palace and what you don't, and we'll talk about that.
I saw this in the calendar. You have all the year plan.
Oh yeah, that's nothing. You should see. Yeah, you have no idea what my calendar is.
It's just a sample.
I'm one of those people. Yeah. So anyway, good. It's a good thing. All right, so we're going to try a very brief meditation. So if we can sit Seizo, or if you wish, you can sit more comfortably. So right hand tight fist and left hand is over right. And if you want to grab a bench, you can. That's easier for you guys. So eyes are closed, Moxo. We're not going to do a visualization exercise because I don't want you to, well, first of all, it's very late, but I also want you just to kind of float with the things that we talked about. Here's what I want you to float and think about. I want you to start to see and feel and think about the Ikigai. about the reasons for existence that you have. Don't feel like you have to list them right now. You don't. Don't feel like you have to decide on them. You don't. Let them float around your head and in your heart. What are the ones that get attracted to you? Play with it. Play with it. That's all you have to do. All right, take a deep breath. Slowly let it out. Take a deep breath. Slowly let it out. One more deep breath. Slowly let it out. Begin. So, Yame, slowly open your eyes, become reaccustomed to the light, roll out your shoulders, shake out your hands. Breathe. So a lot more work to do. Take home the two ideas of Ikigai and this map idea, and try to do it. Try to find that time. You owe it to yourself. I know life is busy. Believe me, I know. You don't have to do this between now and the next class. You don't have to. This should not be something that you feel pressured, and don't put yourself under pressure, because you want to be in your most creative state of mind when you do this exercise. You shouldn't feel tired. You shouldn't feel anxious. You should almost feel joyful. It's a blank piece of paper, and you get to draw what gets on it. Wow. Right? Does anybody remember when they were a little kid? It was like beginning of school, and you got that box of crayons, and you opened the box, right? And every crayon was perfect, right? They weren't chipped, they weren't messed up. You didn't lose the lime green one yet, right? And you could smell the crayons. Maybe this was just my childhood, I don't know, guys. That's what you have. You got a new box of crayons. Have fun with it. Patient time.
Us.
Is here?
Us.
I apologize, we went crazy long. Please have a good night. We'll see you next week.